thank you guys for being part of our virtual book club discussion,
Yes.
and I'm excited to have all of you here.
Thank you for trying to do this too. There she is. Okay. Oh, good. There's Mary. Mary, turn on your video. Yeah, there you go. All right, so the book this month was Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead, and he wrote the Underground Railroad, which is what we read last year, right? And Leah was worried about how they had everybody under the ground like that. Okay, that's cool.
I liked this one better.
I did too.
Well, yeah, okay, so I will start with just a few things, and I wasn't real sure how we were going to do this discussion. What I think the best thing is, because our grid will be a little different on everybody's computer, what I think we'll do is when I finish saying my little bit, then I will call on somebody, and everybody's got their name on here. Mary's name is actually Vicky. It's not. It's Dorothy. Can you turn on your video?
I turn
Okay.
on my what?
Your video. All we see is your name. Okay. And Mary's the only one that hasn't been in the Broadmoor group. So ML, what we do is everybody has a little snatch of their impression or something they want to say about it. So we would love to have your comments. Okay. So y'all ready to go? All right. I love this book. And I just read it for the second time, and it was even better. Yeah, I probably liked it better than the Underground Railroad, I guess because it was maybe easier to follow or to believe. But I think the guy is an excellent writer. I mean, I just felt like everything that he found out about this place in 2014, and the school itself only closed in 2011. So,
wow.
Yeah, but it was only, it had changed a good bit, but it closed in 2011. And so I really liked the way he made it that historical fiction that was easy to follow, and it was certainly a story we hadn't heard, and it was told in a really nice way. Each chapter to me was a standalone chapter. It was a story within the whole big story. So it seems like if you did a reading or something, he could just read a chapter and you'd get a sense of this place. You know, one was about the fight, and one was about when the people came to visit, and one when he was younger and doing well in school, and then when he got all that stuff. And so let's see, what else do I want to say before I just throw it back to y'all? The chapter about the White House when he got the beating was really hard for me. He did a really good job of talking about the detail and how bad he was hurt, and it was very real. And of course, when the okay, Mary. So then when when the inspectors, or when the committee or the board of directors or whoever it was, the state came to visit, remember they painted all the blood and cleaned everything up. They had a fan on. It was a lot. And I thought he was a very, very clever, the way he kept his journal of names in his dealings. And I guess that's all I want to say, because I really want to know what you got out of the book. I thought very believable, but very sad. Okay, so I'm going to move to Jean since she's been on here the longest.
Okay. Oh, I read the book before it got put on our list, and I really liked it as well. And it was, to me, somewhat pertinent with all that's going on with the Black Lives Matters business. I enjoyed seeing how the grandmother was treating the grandson and how he, wanted to please her. I also, the thing I did not like, I did not understand when the committee came and Elwood, whatever the other kid name that took over Elwood, how he passed the note and why there was no result from that. He kind of left that out, and I kept hoping that he would explain that a little bit better. And it was most believable that they would, send the kids into town to do errands and work for the prominent families, because that's probably something, that from prisons, they do take people and they work on the side of the road or whatever else. So I thought it was most believable. And it was just really sad that this kid, who was probably very intelligent, got put in jail in the first place because he didn't steal the car. And he had hitchhiked and was riding. And there should have been somebody then that spoke up for that to keep him from even having to go to this place.
Can't hear it.
So that was my take on it. But I did like it, and because I had read it before it even got chosen. So it was good. Do I call on somebody now?
Yes, you do. Thank you.
Kay, you're up.
Okay, I read it when it first came out, and unlike Laura, I didn't read it a second time. I remember really enjoying it and really finding some parts of it very depressing.
Sure.
One thing that came for me was when they went to the school and they had covered things up and painted. When Pam, our daughter that's a child psychiatrist, goes to these juvenile detention things now, and for the, not Homeland Security, she does work for the Justice Department. And they went to one over by Monroe, and when they drove in, kids were standing up on top of the building with a big sign that says, "What you see is not what it is." And I remember reading that book thinking, even back then, it was cover up, make things look good. So that was kind of a hit me in the stomach kind of thing, because that personal experience that Pam had talked about. So, but I found some parts of it very sad. But like Laura said, he's a great writer. I would read anything he writes when it first comes out.
Yeah.
I don't remember a lot of details because I've probably read 60 books since then. So, but it was a good book, good, well written, and sad. Debbie?
Well, I enjoyed the book too. I think he's a very descriptive writer. I mean, you could just picture yourself there, and it was hard at times, like Laura said. Some of it was so graphic in my mind that I'd have to skip over it and then maybe go back. But the one quote I remembered was that he believed in Dr. King's quote, like, "Throw us in jail and we will still love you." And I think that really, he tried so hard and they just broke. You could tell that was their job, to break their spirit. And that really hit a nerve with me, that, and with what's all going on now, the same, people's spirits are being broken right now. But I enjoyed it, and I liked the ending with the little twist where his friend Turner took his name and then, built a business in New York City and then went back and testified to tell them what really happened. That was a little twist at the end I wasn't expecting, but I really enjoyed it. It was good.
Thank you.
Sharon?
I also really enjoyed it. I thought it was very well written. It gripped me. I was compelled to keep reading and reading. Jean, before I forget, I thought that I read toward the end, when we found out that Elwood was actually Turner, that he talked about his regret at betraying Elwood.
So he never turned it over.
If he did not pass the letter to the local.
That's probably what happened. Yeah.
That's what happened. But anyway, what a story, and so timely for us right now. I don't know who picked it, but thank you. It is a good book.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. So where am I? Hilda.
Okay. I read it this weekend because, I knew I didn't read the Underground Railroad because I read about 50 pages and I hated it. So I wasn't going to read this book, but I went on and got it. And then begrudgingly on Saturday, I picked it up and I stayed up all night, read the whole thing. I just loved it. I thought he's a great writer. Even down to the very last sentence when Turner is sitting in having the meal, and he's really in the hotel where Elwood had washed the dishes. I mean, the way he tied all that. And he didn't even know that's where he was. So I'm sorry about my voice, it's allergies or something. But I thought it was really good. And I had just finished reading also The Ghost of Medgar Evers by Willie Morris. I just finished that. I've been reading it off and on. I thought, all of this was happening in the kind of same time frame. And I had to keep reminding myself I'm reading stuff from 50 years ago, and it could be like this weekend. So I thought it was a good book. I think he's an excellent writer. I really like the grandmother. I just feel like that's a lady that I know I've probably met many times over the years. And, how hard she worked to keep her grandson out of trouble. And then he ends up, just because he hitchhiked, with the wrong person, and they got picked up. But anyway, I did enjoy it. And I am not going to go back and read the Underground Railroad, though. I'm just not going to do it. Didn't like it. But I would read something else by him. I thought it was very, very well written. So who else is on here? Let me go. I can't see the names very well.
Okay.
Leah.
Hey, yeah, I liked it. Well, I mean, liked it. I didn't like the story, but the book I thought was good and very timely. And I loved all the quotes from Dr. Martin Luther King. I wish we had been hearing some of those now. And we do, but I mean, about the aspect of changing things in a peaceful manner. And I thought the one thing that stood out to me was that everybody kind of knew he was different. Me, I'm underlining, taking notes. On page 103, it said Turner had never met a kid like Elwood. And several different places, it talked about how he wasn't your normal. They didn't include him in the pranks because they knew it wasn't his style, that he wouldn't do that. And I just thought he was kind of, I don't know whether naive or the eternal optimist, or, that good was going to win in the end. He thought if he could get his grandmother and the lawyer could get him out, and then he thought if he could get the note to the people, that would fix everything. He just always hoped that things were going to get better. I had underlined the part about how he had stopped fighting, that he had kind of had given up at that point. But, I just thought it was very believable, especially for those in the 60s. It made me wonder, we used to go to the pea farm in Minden and buy vegetables. And, I guess that was legal. I guess they were growing them to sell. But I'm sure those kind of things went on, that the inmates did favors or did work for the other people. Anyway, yes, I liked it much better than the Underground Railroad.
That calling somebody.
Dorothy.
Oh, okay. I disagree with you about Elmwood and the note passing. I think that Turner got that note passed, and that's what caused his second beating
I agree.
for Elmwood.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a dark tale for Turner. He took his name and he wanted to redeem his friend, particularly the way he was killed at the end when they were escaping. But the saddest part to me was the end of the book, the twist in the book, where it seems that, and maybe I'm wrong, that Turner goes to, he finally braves it out like Elmwood would and goes to speak his piece about what happened to him at this place. And most of the people there were the white boys that were in the white part. And I got the feeling that he was the only black boy that was speaking up. And he felt a very ominous shoulder of responsibility to Elmwood to do this. So it was a sad tale for me, and I think it's probably still going on today.
Give that dog a bone.
Yeah, I'm going to get the door.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Mary, why don't you talk now?
Can you hear Joan? Yes or no?
Okay.
We can hear you, we can't see you.
Who can see-
I can see Mary. Mary is ML Dumars.
It's Joan Little down at the bottom.
Huh?
It's the lady at the bottom that's asking you if you can see her, Joan.
Joan Lear.
Joan Lear.
Oh, wait. I just called on Mary when Dorothy got up. Joan, just wait a minute. We'll call on you.
Because I've had trouble getting in. I've just got in now. That's
Okay.
why I asked.
You have family
I'm in.
pictures showing.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Go,
You want me
Mary.
to go ahead?
Yeah.
Me? Okay.
Yes.
This is the second book by Whitehead that I've read. I read The Underground Railroad for another book club, and I love them both. They're so vastly different, and he's so talented in world building, but he builds a realistic world. And I think this is very much a realistic look at the, I hate saying this word, the penal system. And Laura knows why. I'm prudish. So there's talk of the school to prison pipeline. And in this book, it just skips right to it and says the school is the prison. I posted section 1 of the 13th Amendment in the chat box. And I did that because I wanted to make sure people knew that when slavery was ended, it was ended except as punishment for a crime. So a lot of adult males, black males, were put into prison not too long after slavery because we still had our economy and we still needed laborers. The North depended on the South's riches and vice versa. So this book really hit home for me, knowing how many near misses young black males have had with police. And I think, well, not just I think, but on page 207, Turner, who is now Elwood, reiterated he should have burned that letter. And the sense I got was that he did deliver that letter because Elwood was adamant about it, and Elwood was honest, and Turner always referred to Elwood as sturdy. And I think out of respect for his friend, he turned that letter in. He meant it when he said he would, and he did it. What bothers me so much about that is that more than likely, the people he turned it into really did not care. I mean, changing the law does not change generations of thinking. And the brutality that was exhibited in this book, and I'm not going to stay on my soapbox long, but the brutality that's exhibited in this book is the brutality that has been documented for years. And having it relegated to a punishment system was kind of the legal way to do it, to still be able to do it. And they mentioned that the staff members they chose were usually well chosen. They had that propensity for exacting the kind of punishment that was felt to be needed in this school. And I always found it interesting that there was very little said about the segregation of the school in a time where desegregation was the thing that had occurred, and yet the school was still segregated, and very little was said about the South Campus, the white side of the campus, to find out in the end that white boys had been to the ice cream factory, the White House, as they had been there, as well as the black boys. But I have a feeling that the punishment was brutal for them and fatal for the others. I didn't hear a mention of there being an outback in the south part of the campus. And the outback was where you went and did not return. So farming the boys out, very much like what happens in prison. Not that I have a firsthand account and don't ever want to, but I know too many people who bummed a ride, so to speak, and ended up in jail, or ended up almost in jail, but they had some kind of interaction with the law. And the book it made it even more tragic because it was youth. To me, it was just
Waste, a waste, a waste.
yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, but I think, if we can't use you one way, we'll use you another is just what came up to me. But for him to be able to execute this book and not be incensed most of the time is amazing. He pointed out things and brought to light things that a lot of people don't know happened, don't believe happened, but they happened. And, I read that it was based on the Dozier School. So, I'm glad he did his research, and I'm glad he included those notes to, because I had no doubt this was real because it was too well written. And for him to have seen the documentation and to put that in there, I was grateful for that because it's almost unbelievable. It's inconceivable that someone would hurt a child like that. And yet that history, that heirloom of brutality has passed down for generations over centuries. It doesn't just stop one day. And I'm gonna stop now.
Thank you so much for being a part.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. You
I
want to
read
call
this book so I could be part of this. I bought it and I hadn't got to it yet. And my father-in-law said, "Oh, this book is awesome. It was really good." And then I saw that you guys were getting together. I was like, I got to finish the book. So I finished it today.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all for having it.
Yeah. You want to call on somebody? You want me to call on? Joan, do you want to go now? Put your in.
May I talk? There
Sure.
were a lot of things in this book First of all, it was still the Jim Crow era of the 60s, took place in 62. Then the tragedy of a good boy when his grandmother putting so much into him. And of course, Turner was the bad boy, but they got together. That was what would have saved him. And then I was very impressed by how he was influenced by Martin Luther King's words and beliefs. That to me was very important. And then Elwood had ideals. Turner was skeptic. He said, you must dream big if he's going to survive. I kept thinking of those children in the South. I know we shouldn't say it, but I always do, that are in cages. One thing about these boys at Nickel is that they did come back again if they were let out, and it affected them the rest of their lives. Elwood was lucky, it didn't, but must have affected him. So can you imagine what it's doing to those poor little kids down in the South? I think that the good influence of Elwood influenced Turner. Then I felt that it gave this book gave the tortured souls a voice. It tells about friendship and a tragic American history. I found it powerful, heartbreaking, brutal, and horrific. And of course, I'd read about Dozier School for Boys and how they had dug up these graves when the land was sold and found these bones that it was obvious that they had been hit and tortured and broken bones. So it was white boys and black boys. It was a horrible thing, but it happens. And I'm sure that some of it's going on at the moment. The ending was a big surprise to me. Was anyone else surprised by the ending?
Yeah, we were.
I just didn't think it was going to be Turner. Thank you. I had a lot of trouble getting on this evening. So that's why I kept asking, can you see me?
Okay, glad you made it. Okay, we have Vicki, who calls herself iPad, and Marianne, and Shayna, and anybody else not gone. Oh, Shirley, if you'll turn in your audio, people will know who you are. In your video.
Hi.
Hi, yeah.
Hi, I'm in the car.
I see that. Okay. So why don't you talk next, Shirley, and then we'll make sure that Vicki and Mary Ann and Shayna have a turn.
Okay. Well, to me, it's just such a sad story. And I grew up during that same period of time. I'm 66, and it's just so hard to accept that was going on and that I wasn't more tuned in to. I think a lot of people were not tuned in to that was happening, because I remember as a child, I would say, I would read the National Geographic about the Nazis and when the Jews were sent to the chambers. I was like, how could people stand by and let that happen? And yet here I am in my lifetime, these terrible things have happened and I did nothing. And I feel like that is one thing, that affected me so much about this book. It's very, very eye-opening, and yet it made me very sad and made me rethink, a lot of my life.
Okay.
Okay, I'm in a car with two other people. We just took our granddaughter back to Tech campus, so I'll go now.
Okay, I'm glad you joined us. See, we've got an out-of-town person. That's what's great about Zoom. All right, Shana, you want to go next?
Okay. I found the book to be beautiful, painfully beautiful, but beautiful. And he is I would like to talk to the author because the way the book is constructed, there is so much symbolism in this book. Like I read it too soon, so I had to read it again so I would remember everything. And maybe that reading it a second time right behind that first one, I was able to see a lot of things. Like it was the graveyard that triggered Turner to go down there and confess, and the encyclopedias at the very beginning, that was kind of like a warning of what was to come for him. And I really thought that Turner felt like he betrayed Elwood when he gave him that note, because he knew they would beat him. He knew they would. And they didn't kill Elwood because they wanted to wait and see what the fallout was. Well, there was no fallout. So they were going to kill him. So Turner tries to save him. He said he would never take anybody with him when he would escape. He had that plan. And but then for to end on that note of hope, where he's in that restaurant, he's in that hotel, eating at that table, and that was Elwood's dream. And it was just so, you know, he just wrote it. He just put it there for you to take what you would from it. Just see this, you know, he didn't preach at you. He didn't point it out to you. He just put it there for you to see. It affected me in ways I didn't expect. There was a quote from Martin Luther King about at Zion Hill. I wrote it down because it really, and I'd heard the speech before. Maybe it was because I read it. I don't know. We must believe in our soul that we are somebody, that we are significant. I think why it affected me the way that it did was that I was able to see myself in that quote and then go out from that, if that makes sense. It says I felt like I was nobody. I felt like I was unimportant. I felt like I should stay in the shadows. And then to understand that this is not one person. This is everyone in this group of people. And that this grandmother has to teach her child to be that way. And I don't know, it you know, it just changed the way that I saw things. It just did. And I didn't think I was seeing them wrongly before. And I don't think that I was seeing them wrongly. I just wasn't really understanding it at this level. This is an important book. It really is.
Yeah.
But I bought Underground Railroad now, so I'm going to read that one too.
But he got back-to-back Pulitzer Prizes, you know.
Yeah.
One for the Underground Railroad and then the next year this. That's pretty amazing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay, call on Vicki or Mary Ann.
I can't tell. Whoever wants to go. I can't tell who's who.
I'll go.
Okay.
I'll go. My
Go.
turn. Go.
Yeah. Vicki's gonna be.
This book, for me, I saw a lot of parallels to what's going on today. That the violence that we witnessed with George Floyd, the jogger in Georgia, and one of the things I read about this author is his struggle with trying to hold on to optimism and yet getting overwhelmed by it seems to just keep going on and on and on. And that's his struggle when he writes. there's also a summary, a very good summary of the actual school where this happened. I lived in Florida for a while, and I had heard about this school just out of gossip, and it was already, I think it was still open while I lived in Florida, actually. There's a wonderful summary on Wikipedia about the history of the school and how it got to the University of South Florida and their anthropology students, and they're still, well, in 2017, they were still finding remnants, and they're still thinking there's other plots that they have not even, and the reason they are doing this is there was going to be a office complex, and they were going to buy that land. And when they found remains, somebody one of the relatives of one of the boys they found filed a lawsuit to keep them from bulldozing that school, and that's how the whole research began. I kind of had that feeling at the end, the same kind of feeling I had when I watched Sixth Sense, the movie. It's like you watch the whole thing and there, boom, there's the ending. And I even went back in the book to see if I could find hints where they were going to change. With it, you know, didn't it hint in here? And he did. And he did such a wonderful job. And I was and that explained why Curtis, I think was his last name, never went to the get-togethers, never went to the meetings, because they would know he's Turner. Mm-hmm. So he did it all online. And that by the time he finally went to Florida, he was ready to reveal what he knew. And I was under the impression one of the reasons they did run away is because Turner did turn over this letter and had heard or knew that they were coming to get the real Curtis, what is his first name, Elwood?
Elwood.
To the White House. And that is why, that's why they ran away. This was an amazing book, and you're right, he won the Pulitzer Prize for this. You know, I was kind of iffy about the Underground Railroad, but now that I kind of read this book, I may go back and reread it.
Yeah,
a different mindset. And, but I think this is an amazing author. I cannot wait to see what other books he writes. But I think this story is pertinent to what we're going through right now.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Vic, it's your turn. Bring it all in. Wait, turn on your mic.
Sorry. Now we got it.
Yeah.
I read The Underground Railroad, not with the group, but after the group read it, but they were so enthusiastic about the book, I thought, I need to give it a try, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I had read about the Dozier School. I think there was an article several years ago in the New York Times. And when I read that he was writing a book about it, I thought, okay, that's going to be on my to-read list. And finally, I found the book on Overdrive through Libby. And I read it through the Libby app. And in a way, I'm disappointed that I did that, because then I don't have the book to go back to. And that's my only regret. And since I finished it, and I finished it at the end of June, I figured out that with Libby, if you read a book, you can read it through the Kindle app. And then with the Kindle app, you can highlight the phrases, and that gets saved to my Goodreads account. And so then if I had known that, then I could have given some quotes. I went back to my review of the book when I finished it, and I said, quote unquote, horrifying, brutal, I couldn't put it down. I agree with everything that everybody has said. I have devoured every video that I can find of Colson Whitehead. And I just think he's an amazing man. He's an amazing author. And I am so glad that he brought this issue, you know, to where more people are aware that this has happened. You know, it made me think of, and this is, you know, in a Cool Hand Luke, the movie with Paul Newman, except this is with children. And just the cruelty is so appalling. And I'm glad that this important book has been recognized.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Samantha, do you want to say anything? You haven't started it, have you?
No, I haven't read the book yet, but I did read a little bit about the book and it sounded very interesting. And then just listening to this conversation, it sounds like it's a really amazing piece of work. I feel like I might be triggered a little bit when I read it, but that's okay. You know, it's good to have books that will trigger emotions and make you think about things and look at things in another light. So this one has definitely been added to my to be read list. So I'll let y'all know what I think when I finish it.
Okay. That's one of the things we come away with at book club is deciding whether or not we want to finish it or, you know, recommend it, or because it reminds us of the strength. While we're at it, there's another book that I recommend that I read for a course I was taking. Jessamine Ward, who wrote Salvage the Bones and Sing Unburied Sing, wrote a memoir before she wrote those two. Now, she had back-to-back National Book Awards, but she wrote a memoir, and the name of it is The Men That We Reaped. Men That We Reaped. And it's a Harriet Tubman quote, but it's about these who the Black men were based on, you know, what they had to go through and all. And it's 5 people close to her, 5 young men. One was her brother, one was a cousin, 3 others were friends that had all died horrific deaths. And in between the chapters of each man, talk about her background and growing up in South Mississippi and all. It was a very powerful book. And, you know, if you can get through this, I think the more books I read like this, the more I grow with the understanding of, you know, this isn't just a story. This is life.
Right.
You know, I think about all the children I taught and wondered, you know, when they were young, and wondered, you know, what intervened before they grew up to become young men, become the men that we reaped. So I just want to throw that in.
Well, thank you for that. I'll add that to the list too.
That's a good book.
I wonder if any high schools have this on a reading list.
Nickel boys?
No. No, don't scare them.
I don't know. I bet you Magnet could do it or something.
Yeah, maybe. You were talking about Parchment Prison, weren't you? The Parchment Prison, the book.
Yes, that's what Sing Unburied Sing was.
Sing, yes.
Yeah.
But when someone goes through something like this, they can never be the same again. That's why it upsets. It upsets about the. Well, look at those poor little kids in cages.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about Millie, the way he threw her in, the wife of Turner, New York, and money, and raised, but she went through experiences that put her down. And when she heard of Turner's tale, it just hit home as to what was going on. And her experiences combined that she had just shoved aside and overlooked, and just to live a normal life. So it was kind of interesting how he threw that in before Turner went to Florida to testify.
See, I thought, and he talks about how if he could overcome to come out of that place and make something of himself, to become a man capable of loving her the way he did, to become the man she loved, his deception was nothing compared to what he had done with his life. I mean, I thought the fact that he took Elwood's identity was almost a tribute to Elwood.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like he was a better person. I'm going to try to live up to his ideals.
Yeah.
And then
That's what it seemed like, is that, you know, he, instead of being Turner, once he took Elwood's identity, he tried to take on Elwood's attributes as well, because everything leading up to this made me think this was Elwood, the adult, talking, until I got to them running away. And there's like one section in a paragraph where it says Elwood took a breath and his arms were wide. And when he wrote that, it literally popped me back out of the story, because I was like, who just got shot? And then I thought about who did the shooting, and then I went on with the story. So when it was revealed in the end, I was like, that's why that bothered me, because I knew and didn't want to accept it.
Yeah.
Okay, can I read just this once? This is my favorite sentence out of the whole thing. The world had whispered its rules to him his whole life, and he refused to listen, hearing instead a higher order. And I mean, I think that's so appropriate for right now.
Yeah.
We lost Debbie. She was going to say something.
No, she told me she was going to leave her.
Another Zoom.
Okay.
I wanted to comment on the school situation there, which I thought was different. Well, first of all, I thought it was strange that they had both white and black on the same campus, even though they were segregated, but, you know, still in the same semi-facilities. But when Elwood said that when he went to school that what they were teaching was what he had learned in the first grade, I thought, how sad is that they would not have a more appropriate education for the boys that were there. And maybe some of them had never been to school, I don't know, but I thought that was really, that they didn't divide and have some in the younger age or older age and teach, you know, more of what he was asking for. So I thought that was another significant thing about that school, that they weren't trying to really educate.
No,
Right.
not in that anyway.
No.
That wasn't their goal.
No.
And
But
he
y'all, there's
asked the guy and everything.
Right.
in the last few years, when there's someplace around here that was a school, like a reform school, that was run by a private, and I mean, they got shut down too for horrible things.
Yeah.
There's one in Monroe that got shut down.
That might be what I was talking about.
There was one over between like Minden or Ruston. It was out in the woods. I remember that one, Leah.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Was that like Joy?
Something
Yeah,
else.
Joy.
It was a Christian
Like that.
thing.
Yeah, it was a Christian. Yeah.
Supposedly.
Yeah. Well, that was what, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what they need in these facilities are people that are trained to work with these young children and adults. They hire these guys that have no education or experience, and they think the best way to handle them is beat them. So they don't pay enough to get people that can take care and help the children.
Yeah. It's not a high priority.
And I think it's one of the causes that are going on today. When, you know, we say defund the police, I kind of wish we'd come up with a different word, but mental health workers, people who, like the man that was killed in Rochester, he was having a mental health problem. And I mean, the police need to be there, but they, you know, bring a trained person with them to kind of diffuse this.
Well,
That's what
Right.
defund means.
Yeah, I know.
It's a misnomer to me.
I'm thinking there should be another word because people
Yeah,
think
it is a misnomer, you're right.
stuff, right? So
I'm glad to hear someone talk about the law enforcement side of this book, because I was just about to say, like no one commented. I looking at what happened to Elwood and the reason he was thumbing a ride just broke my heart.
Yeah.
But how many others fell into that? As they described the supposedly bad boys, all I could think of was, you reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. That just kept coming to mind, because these kids emulate what they learn and see, and what's done to them is what they in turn they internalize it and turn around and do it to others. And the author even talked, he displayed that in the section of the book where he talked about one of the younger kids being punked, and that kid turned around then and started punking the kids who were younger than him. He did what he was taught, and unfortunately they were taught horrendous things. But you got to wonder how much of it did they learn outside of this school, because some of them came in damaged, and they talked about the bruises and the scars that they had before they ever even got to the school. So for some of them, this was status quo. This is the same thing I was getting. Nobody cared then, nobody cares now, and that just it bothered me that it was so easy for Elwood to get in trouble and to get sentenced and to be sent to Nickel. It was so easy, no matter what he did all those years before and who knew him in the community. The fact remained, from that point on, he was guilty, processed, and sent off.
And no one spoke up for him.
Exactly.
You kind of wonder why the teacher didn't go looking for him.
But then you got to realize too, well, not realize, but I'm thinking my word against someone when it comes to law is going to have a much lower, much smaller impression than your word would. It's still to this day, there's just, this is the system we're working in and trying to change it from the inside out. But it still remains a Black person's word against a white person's word. It's not going to stack up equally in the law. It should. Lady Liberty is supposed to be blind, but like I say again, centuries of mindset is a lot harder to change. Our mindset of stepping off the sidewalk when we see a white person, or diverting our eyes when we see a person, that's just as much a part of that lesson learned as expecting to be allowed to go first, or expecting that it's okay to reach out and touch. I mean, there's just some idiosyncrasies that we've learned from generation to generation. We teach our kids these things, and sometimes we don't realize that these are the lessons we've learned until we see them.
Well, and I hope we've quit teaching our kids those things. I hope that's the hope for the future, is that, it just takes a long time for things to change.
Yeah.
But
Arc of justice.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
Yeah,
You actually have to become aware of it. Somebody's got to point it out and say, hey, do you realize you do that? I got a rude awakening when my son admonished me for using the descriptive Black. I asked him, were you talking about your Black friend or your white friend? Because I didn't know which kid he was talking about. And he got on me because that's not their vocabulary anymore. And I realized, of all the other descriptives I could have used, he's right. I could have used another descriptive, but not until it was pointed out did I even notice that I did that.
So a big education there.
Yeah.
We have to keep evolving.
Yes. And learning from our young ones, because
Yeah.
they don't grow up learning. I mean, they don't grow up with these prejudice. They're
Right, that's what I meant. I hope, yeah.
Yeah.
They're taught them, unfortunately.
This has been great. Thank y'all so much.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Next month, the Broadmoor Book Club's book is this listening book, Little Fires Everywhere. Read that. And it's not this book for sure, but it does have some childhood issues in it. And so
Yeah. And prejudice.
Every dysfunctional thing you can think of.
Well,
hey man, that's what sells. Yeah.
That's the American family.
I know.
No, don't say that.
We're all dysfunctional, but we're working together. So
yeah.
Samantha,
This
if
was
someone
great.
missed this discussion, are you the one recording?
Yes, I'm recording it.
One person that missed it and wanted us to take notes, but I haven't been taking notes because I've been listening.
What I'll do is I will send a link to the video to Laura so she can share it with all of you.
Okay.
All right, what is the book for next week, parish-wide? Do you know?
For One Book, One Parish, we are going
No,
to...
I mean...
For the book club.
For the next book club.
Isn't it Michelle Obama? Isn't that parish?
That was last year. So next month, the book club will feature our One Book, One Parish book discussion, which is
Starless
the Starless Sea. Sorry, my mind went blank for a second. It's the Starless Sea is this year's One Book, One Parish.
I don't know what you're
title.
saying.
Yeah, can you type that?
Yeah, I'll type it.
The starless, no stars,
Oh.
Yeah, the Starless Sea.
Sea.
Who wrote it, Samantha? Who wrote it?
Aaron Morgenstern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The night service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did the night service.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Very good. Thank y'all so much.
Yes, so thanks everyone.
Friday. I love it.
Bye.
It was nice to have the combination of people too.
Yeah.
Mary, for being a part of this.
Yes.
Appreciate
miss
your
you.
input. I miss you too. We gotta get together.
Yes.
Yes. All right.
6 feet.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
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 Thank you, Samantha.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.